Good morning, my dear students.
Good morning, sir.
So, once again, we are back for our discussion on Mahasweta Devi's story, The Hunt. I hope that all that I discussed earlier are already understood by all of you. And today, we would, in fact, proceed with our textual analysis. And wherever I feel necessary, I would revert to my PPT so that I can just bring to your notice and give you some visual images of the important points if necessary. Okay, so without any further delay, I would now start to share my screen with you. And first, the text. Okay, now are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So just see, last time we were discussing about Mary Orao, and especially I would like to draw your attention to that particular point where Mahasweta Devi was telling us about Mary's extraordinary kind of a character. And I told you repeatedly that Mary is just not a tribal. She is a tribal woman, and this has become spatially interesting and challenging for her that she is a kind of a bastard. And she is doubly an outsider because in her own community, she is also seen as an outsider. Try to understand. That is a very peculiar kind of a condition, right? And we know that she has a very upright kind of a character. She is 18-year-old and she is full of life. But what stands out in the character of Mary Orao is that she is extremely conscious about her own self-dignity, and she doesn't allow any kind of extra leverage to anybody if anybody tries to take any advantage. And interesting again that she is a very loyal worker. She knows what her rights are, right? And she has already committed herself to a Muslim boy. Another very interesting kind of a development that took place. She decided to marry a Muslim out of the community. In fact, perhaps Mahasweta Devi, by telling us about this, wants us to understand that all this casteism, all this sense of Hindu, Muslim, or any such kind of a difference is just artificial. What matters most is who cares for you, who gives you that desired kind of respect. And she has been extremely hardworking. She looks after the bungalow of Mr. and Mrs. Prasad, right? When Mrs. Prasad says, well, she can get her married to her gardener's son, she understands the meaning thereby. So she says very clearly, you want to actually keep me a captive all my life. That I'm not going to allow, right? And then further, she has already said that, you actually don't, you're not really interested in getting me properly settled. What you want, mark that. This is that part which we covered last time. Why not? The Muslim says he will marry. Your brother wanted only to keep me. Mark that here. This is that part which we were discussing last time. So she is very upright, she is very blunt, she can speak straight to the face. She is not afraid of anybody. And all this comes from a sense of dutifulness. She is so honest, and she knows there is no reason for her to really fear anybody, right? And everybody is afraid of Mary. She cleans house, pastures cattle with her inviolate constitution, her infinite energy. Look at that. Mahasweta Devi says, infinite energy, endless ability to work. And she is full of life, right? And again, though she might be an overall illiterate woman, but her mind is razor sharp. Look at those adjectives also, very important for us to keep in mind. And she knows what is her right. Therefore, she picks up the mohua fruits that fell down from 4 of the mohua trees, and she is the absolute owner of them. And she knows also how to get her things. So she is demanding Mrs. Prasad to dress her well, and which Mrs. Prasad is obliged to do. Now, then we talk about how she mixes with other people in the community, and she is really a bit pained when the tribal community doesn't ask her not to move around in the dark or not to really marry a Muslim. Mark that. She sits at any Orao house in the village, fries wheat cakes on a clay stove, eats with everyone. Just as she knows she will marry Jalin, she also knows that if she had resembled any Orao girl, if her father had been Somra or Budra or Mangla Orao, the Oraos would not have let this marriage happen. Mark that. So she is acutely all the time conscious that she is an outsider. And there, in fact, lies that secret to her search for identity. Try to understand that this is a very important aspect where in the story, Mahasweta Devi is telling us that, well, we might try to suffocate them, torture them, but when it comes to asserting one's dignity, asserting one's identity, well, a tribal woman perhaps is not just lagging behind. Sometimes even we might find these kind of girls taking the baton in their hands. Mark that. She would have rebelled if they had. So she is very conscious about her own liberty and freedom. So she would not be really, she would not have accepted had the Orao family said, no, you can't marry Jalim just because Jalim is a Muslim. And yet, see the dichotomy, see the paradox, and see the pain. In her inmost heart, there is somewhere a longing to be part of the Oraos. What is this? This is a sense of belonging. Yes, I belong to the Oraos. Her destiny has put her in a marginalized situation where she is not properly a tribal, neither an Australian, right? She wouldn't have been very glad if when she was 13 or 14, some brave Orao lad had pulled her into marriage, right? Perhaps she would have gone happily with any of the Orao boys had this happened when she was hardly just at the beginning of her teens. But now she is an 18-year-old young woman who can understand many things, who can analyze, who can decipher. And now there is a pain that, well, people, even in a community, they make a difference with her. They also feel that she is not just like them. So moves on the story. So goes Mary's life. Suddenly one day, stopping the train, Collector Singh descends with Prasadji's son. So this is actually a turn, a very important turn that happens in the story as well as in the life of Mary and the Kuruda village. We have a collector, Singh. He comes there along with Prasadji's son, and Mary's life is troubled. A storm gathers in Kuruda's quiet and impoverished existence. So this is going to be a real challenge now in their life. What happened actually? Try and understand. Now suddenly another leaf is added to the exploitation. 75 acres or 225 bihas of land are attached to Prasadji's bungalow. Nobody around here obeys the land sealing laws, you know, especially when it is all away in a distant place. All the far-flung bungalows of the old timber planters have large tracts of attached land. Mr. Dixon had planted sal trees, and now these sal trees offer a very lucrative kind of an opportunity for these commercial people. And these sal are not the dwarf sal of the area, but giant sal. In time, they have grown immense and ready for felling. Prasadji used to lament about all that he could have done with this land if there had been no sal. Actually, Prasadji didn't know the real value of sal, and he was least bothered about the environmental issues. So Mahasweta Devi's story, The Hunt, is not just hunting of a woman. It is, as we have earlier discussed, a kind of a sexual hunt, physical hunt, psychological hunt, commercial, financial hunt, different kind of exploitation. Now that he knows the price of sal, his one goal is to sell the trees at the highest price. So Prasadji is really actually is an outsider. We have to keep in mind he has come from Ranchi. And to him, all these sals only mean money. So he is not really attaching any importance to what might happen to the environmental balance if all these sals are felled and taken away. So now once he comes to know that, well, these sal can really be sold at a very good price, he wants them to be sold. And his son, in fact, is another such man who is least bothered about the life of the tribals, least bothered about the environment. So he has now brought a kind of an agent. Lal Chand and Mulni Ji. Now mark, these are two important names that we have to remember. The two other forest proprietors of the area are also happy at this news. Prasad's son Banwari, actually this is the name that becomes very important for us to remember. He takes the initiative and starts looking around in Daltonganj and Chipador. The fruit of his labors is Collector Singh. So finally, he could manage somebody who would be interested and who would perhaps come and look at the sals and purchase them. The first thing Collector Singh looks at is the trees to be felled, right? Just when you go to, a shop and they wants to purchase something, what you do? You just keep on looking at them as mere objects to be consumed. Mark them. To Collector Singh, all these sal trees actually don't have life. and they have nothing to do with Kuruda village environment, their local culture, nothing. So they start negotiating prices. And Prasad says, such salwood, how can I sell all at such a price? Why sell? You will sell where you can make a profit. Name a proper price. Prasadji, Banwari is a real friend. He does service in Chipado and I'm a broker. Why tell a lie? The trees are mature and the wood solid. Says, obviously, that contractor. The whites planted the stuff. Yes, but here I will have them cut in pieces. Trucks won't come here. This is not the white man's rule when I could have brought elephants from the forest department and pulled the timber to Tori. Mark that. So here is an argument to convince Mr. Prasad that he must sell them at not a very high price, because after all, a number of things have to be done. They have to be felled, they have to be cut into pieces, and then they have to be transported. And all this also involve a lot of money. I'll have to take it to Murray, flat tires on the dirt roads. I'll have to cut the trees before that. Think of the expense. But you will make a profit, argues Prasadji. Sure, who works without profit? Still your profit is higher. Brought the bungalow dirt cheap, got a ready-made sal forest. Whatever you get is your profit, because you had no investment for it, not corn that buffaloes pulled the plow and filled hands reaped, not custard, apple, or guava that you chase birds and bats. Forest area, sal area, have trees, sell straight off. Look at the demeaning tone, as if it's all been just got without any effort, without any labor. And try to understand, in fact, Prasadji even couldn't understand the significance of having these big sal trees in his own land, because he hasn't done anything, right? It's a nature's bounty. Lal Chand and Mulli also said, don't make so much trouble, brother. What do we do if he leaves? Do you want to watch the flowers of a tree that bears no fruit? He wants to buy and we will sell. The broker wants the same thing. What trees the whites had planted? The tops break the sky. They were really very giant. The trunks are as big as railway engines. Why buy only Prasadji's trees? He will buy all the trees of the area. Mark now that very spirit that we generally find in the colonizers. So colonize everything, take control of everything, buy everything without any idea what these sal trees really mean for Kuruda village, their environment and their culture. Every 5 years or so, some trees will be ready and I'll buy 1, 2, 3. This is still a virgin area and I'll do the monopoly on tree felling. That is actually an inner thought because it is not within quotation mark. So you can understand this is that inner thought that crisscrosses the mind of the contractor. That was the decision. Prasadji realized later that the argument about the expense of carrying the trees was not altogether correct. For the trucks came past Muri, close to Kuruda. That side is flat and stony. No problem with the arrival of trucks. The broker pitched his tent there. 2 experts came to fell trees. So even Prasadji was befooled. The broker started planning the deployment of manpower. Orao and Munda men and women came from 6 villages. Now, another advantage of doing business here is that you get cheap labor. You exploit also these poor people who do not really have much of an idea of what their physical labor should give them as money or as their service charges. Kuruda, Murai, Seo, Thapari, Dhuma, Chinaboha, unbelievable. Money at home. This is absolutely a new idea to all these tribal young men and women. Here is an opportunity. They can earn money without going out. See, this man has come and he is offering them money for simply doing something that these poor people regularly do, perhaps without money. Others will fell the trees, 12 annas daily for men, 8 annas for women, for trimming branches and carrying the peace timber to the trucks. And a tiffin of cornmeal in the afternoon. Unbelievable. So try and understand how the exploitation and why I said that the significance of the title. Look at the significance of the title, hunt. This is another kind of a hunt. The poor people are being hunted. Their innocence is hunted. Salt and cane with the meal. The village priest and elders will bring the men and women a sack of salt weekly for each village. The elder said, how about the women's honor in the work? Now, that is something very interesting. We have already come to know that the tribals, these people, are very, very conscious about the women's honor. So they will not allow anybody, any outsider really, to do any such damage to the respect of the women folk. And naturally, that question was asked. And the broker said, they are everybody's mothers and sisters. You see, it's a very kind of a catchphrase that we often use without having any sense what we are saying and without really intending to mean that. Whoever forgets will be sacked. Mary is a regular contact and bridge between the outside world of Tori and Kuruda. So after a long gap, Mahasweta Devi brings back the central protagonist. The story, in fact, cannot really proceed without Mary playing a role. So we know that Mary is intelligent and she has a razor-sharp mind. So she could understand that actually the broker is trying to exploit Prasadji and also the tribal people. At night, when she brought Prasadji warm water for his medicine, she said, the bastard tricked you. He took all the profit. Everyone from Tori to Chippador is laughing. You don't know the real price of the sal and you made a very bad bargain. Prasadji took off his false teeth and put them in a bowl of water. Then he took his medicine. In a while, he said, what to do, Mary? With no road, have I the power to sell at profit to anyone? This happens if you live in the forest. Banwari brought him. Banwari is pig-headed. That's a fool. And takes after his mother. I first said no. Then Lal Chand and Mulli got angry. There were many objections at home. Banwari's taken his cut. Cut is, a commission. So you understand how ugly is this world, where nothing is done without personal gain and profit. You know this? I'm aware of it. What a shame. And you didn't do anything. Prasadji sighed and gave her a rupee. That's a kind of a prize for sharing with Prasadji all this information. He gives her like this from time to time. You take such trouble so I don't get tricked over a piece of fruit, a grain of corn, he said. My own son understands nothing. That's absolutely true. Banwari might be the son of Prasadji, but he doesn't understand all the implications. And he is a very short-sighted person. In fact, Prasadji too. What shall I do? Don't I know that he will sell everything and take off when I die? So he is of that kind of a generation who is even just not involved in anything. He just knows money and nothing beyond that. When you sell trees later, there will be a road. Don't give it to him. Go yourself to Chippador. Talk to the big companies and do your business. Don't be soft then. So that is Mary's suggestion. And this is really very, very interesting and ironical that a tribal woman who has hardly any privilege of going to any school or having any education is talking about doing business properly, earning money properly. And for whom is she doing this? for her employer. Not even employer, because she's not employed by Prasadji. Her mother is. So that is what Mahasweta Devi is perhaps stressing here. That look at the simplicity, look at the intelligence, look at the maturity, look at the involvement of these people whom we exploit and consider as not equal to us. Mary told the Kuruda elders as well, 12 annas and 8 annas? No porter carries gentlemen's cases for this price. Even you have been befooled. They have offered you a very low price for all your trouble. The elders said, what to do, Mary? If I said no, the villagers would go wild. They would say, who gives us this kind of money? That's also the ground reality. These people, they have been exploited over the ages. They have never been given the right kind of labor charge. So they don't know exactly what they should get for their physical labor. Mary said, he is greedy now. He will come again in 5 years. Then he'll bargain for 3 or 2 rupees and he will have to give. Otherwise, how will he get an outside here? So mark that. Look at the acumen, look at the wisdom and maturity of Mary. She could read many things which perhaps others can't. No road, no jobs, you know how it is. So that tells us about the ground reality, the condition in which these tribals are forced to live and accept their hard life. Mary thought, in return for the broker's glance, she had shrewdly revealed the man's true nature to everyone. But Collector Singh didn't forget her. A few days later, when Mary was running on a water buffalo's back, herding other cattle, the collector came up to her. How pretty, he said. You look like Hema Malini. Mark that. And actually, Collector Singh misjudged Mary. He thought Mary is just like any other tribal woman and he can really take liberty with her. He can just seduce her. What? You look like Hema Malini. See the answer and see the retort. And you look like a monkey. Collector Singh felt much encouraged by such a remark. He actually could not understand the real spirit behind such a remark. He thought he was successful at least in drawing Mary into some kind of a conversation. So he was much encouraged by such a remark and came up close. Mary didn't stop her water buffalo. As she moved on, she took out a sharp machete and said in a lazy voice, brokers like you with tight pants and dark glasses are 10 rupee on the streets of Tori. And to them, I show them this machete. And she showed that weapon she always carries as a defense. Go ask if you don't believe me. So don't try to be over smart. You have come to Kuruda and you think that you are a hero, but I have come across people like you in plenty at the village, at the market of Tori. The collector found a way of speaking most beguiling. It was beyond expectation that in a village, in a tribal village, and a woman who is least imagined or expected to be speaking in such a language would really speak in this manner. Banwari said at the evening meal, Mary has insulted my friend. He was speaking to his father. Mark that. Even Banwari, the blunt head, he could understand what exactly Collector Singh was trying to do, and he's least bothered. After all, who is Mary? It was Mary who replied, how did I insult your friend? You spoke to him rudely, said Banwari. And mark the answer. This time I let him go with words. If he comes to fuck with me again, I'll cut off his nose. Look at the bluntness. Look at the gusto, the robustness. And that is the spirit of Mary. We have to understand when these poor people, they are exploited again and again, there is that rebellious spirit that keeps on, yelling up inside, and it wants an outlet. Banwari was scared. He said, what did he do? Something crazy? Did he do something crazy? It's crazy talk to me. It may be good talk to you. Prasadji said, ask him not to. These problems don't go with buying trees. And Mary shouldn't talk about selling sal trees at Tori market. It is illegal to sell sal trees if they are on your own land. The sal belongs to the government. Keep your laws. Who keeps land legally here? Who doesn't sell sal in these parts? So Mark, different kind of conversation, different logic. And as I said, that neither the government nor anybody is really interested to protect the environment, protect the village people, protect the tribals. So everything is going on in its own way. Who can exploit how much? That is a kind of competition. Mary said straight to Banwari, have I spoken about your tree sale in Tori market? Have I said you said? I just asked you not to. Don't try to set me straight. Mary left. Prasadji said, this is not correct. Tell your friend, lives in house like a daughter. I'm insulted if she's accosted. So at least in this old man, Prasadji, there is some respect, some care for Mary, which Banwari, unfortunately, doesn't have at all. So mark that, especially, this is important. Lives in house like a daughter. This is like a daughter. That is a kind of a recognition given to Mary by Prasadji. And this has also been owned by Mary. The way she looks after everything, the way she talks about how Prasadji can get the better bargain, and how everything can really be good for the village. Banwari said to collector, she is a real bitch. Look at the language. A rude girl. Doesn't give a damn for anyone. This is Banwari after his father told him that Mary lives like a daughter in the house. And Banwari said to collector, she is a real bitch, a rude girl. Who wants a dam? Besides, a marriage is fixed. Where? A Muslim's house. Dear God, mark that. So it is not any name, not anything. What stands out is a Muslim. See that casteist feeling. Dear God, no man in a tribe? See the reaction in Ratan Singh also, in this contractor also. No man in a tribe? And Banwari says it is her taste. So mark, again, in another manner, another type of hunt, trying to belittle her. Why? Because she has a choice, right? If you are going out of your tribe to marry, well, that cannot be accepted as something natural. Collector didn't believe that a Mary Orao from a wild village like Kuruda could blow him away. He stuck to Mary through marking and felling the trees, cutting and transporting them. That Mary wouldn't look at him and would rather marry a Muslim increased his anger. In these 4 lines, once again, I must tell you, what Mahasweta Devi is trying to tell us is this kind of a mental construct. Just imagine, here is a contractor who has come to Kuruda village for making profit. And suddenly when he saw Mary, an 18-year-old tribal woman, exceptionally sharp and good-looking, right? He thought that along with sal trees, he could also fell Mary. And how can a tribal woman just refuse his offer and go to a Muslim? Mark that. So no choice, no freedom, no dignity, nothing. Well, I have money and you are a tribal, so I can do anything with you. And then you are a woman. Therefore, well, you are further inferior. Then he brings a nylon sari for Mary from Daltonganj. Mark that. He thought that, well, these poor people, if he can offer them a present, well, they can be easily seduced. Sweets for Prasadji. He says to Prasadji, I come and go. She feeds me tea. I give her a sari. Prasadji didn't accept it because Prasadji knows very well the character and the nature of Mary. And we also know, already Mahasweta Devi has told us, that Mary is that kind of a woman who is not going to accept a present, at least use a present given by Jalim, whom she is going to marry later on. And now mark, well, the collector really has totally misjudged her. Mary had gone to Tori, so she was not there at this time when the present was made. She heard about the sari when she got back. First, she gave Prasadji the accounts of for Tori market. So, right, she is on business. So she first gave all the details of what she could do and how much money she could bring for Prasadji. Then she had tea. Mark that, composer. She didn't really hasten up. She didn't really jump onto what the contractor did. Then she had tea and toast in the kitchen. Then she went out with the sari. Mark that, composer. Collector was sitting in the tent, paying the men and women. Lots of people. Mary enters and throws the sari at him. She says, you think I'm a city whore? Do you think I'm a prostitute? Can you buy me? Are you making a bargain with my body? You want to grab me with a sari? If you bother me again, I'll cut off your nose. She goes up proudly, swinging her arms. Just imagine, just try to visualize the whole situation. Here is the man thinking himself very smart, very shrewd, and who can do anything with these people, is insulted with before them. By whom? By a village girl, by a tribal woman who throws that sari before him and says these challenging words. Collector loses face in everyone's eyes. He wants to say, I gave something in good faith. No, he doesn't really have the guts to just accept that he has made an error. She goes up proudly, swinging her arms, and mark the gesture. She is so confident and she is so sure of what she is doing. And she has seen through the design of collector that there is hardly any scope to really challenge her. And it was so unexpected, so sudden for the collector that even collector couldn't react and respond properly. So it was a great kind of a letdown for collector's prestige before everybody. And he just could mumble, I gave something in good faith. And the elders say, don't give again. First, perhaps he couldn't understand properly what exactly the elders also mean, that he should not give anything again. What? Don't give again. He thought that, well, if he asks again, they might just change their language. But they are also quite upright. Mahasweta Devi is not just talking about Mary as an exception. The tribals also have their own dignity. And especially they are very sensitive when it comes to the women honor. Is she a good character? Would a good one marry a Muslim? Now, this is the real important question. And we have to understand what kind of a mentality collector has. Now, when the collector failed to really seduce Mary, straightway he tries now to defame her. You know, there is a phrase in English that when you want to harm your enemy, just call him a dog and shoot him down. Is she a good character? Would a good one marry a Muslim? Now, mark that. Second important point is that if you are marrying a Muslim and you are a non-Muslim, you are a Hindu, you just are not a Muslim, okay? You are marrying outside your tribe, you cannot be good, right? Now, it's too much, was the response. And suddenly collector understands he and his men are in a minority. Look at this, how the tribals stand up, protecting their own women against the outsiders. And that is the beauty. Mary may be Orao, may not be completely Orao. But if an outsider comes and says anything which is not really proper, well, the entire community would stand beside her. And collector suddenly has a sense of insecurity. Everyone has a spear or a machete. So naturally, he could understand that it's better that he doesn't say anything. He shuts up. And perhaps this is a sufficient kind of a hint that has been given by the Orao community to this collector that, come on, man, you have come here only to collect the sal trees. Take the trees and go. Don't try to meddle into anything else, not especially into the dignity and honor of our women. The driver knows collector has a wife and children. Now, this is actually done by Mahasweta Devi to tell us that look at this character. He raises question about Mary's character. And he is married, he has already children. He knows that collector still lusts after women. Mary is indeed an eyeful, but it would be stupid to provoke the tribals and create a police case on her account. If Mary was willing, there would have been no problem. Mary is unwilling, and collector must accept that. And that is at least the driver. Even a driver could understand that collector is perhaps trespassing. Now Prasadji gets serious as well. It is Bikini who brings tea these days. It is Bikini, actually the mother of Mary. So once that situation worsened and a kind of a confrontation came, now Mary stopped giving tea to the collector. So it was now Mary's mother. That was also perhaps the intervention of Prasadji. Collector stops going to the house, but he doesn't give up chasing Mary. Mark that, the lust is still playing there. And this lust is so strong a feeling that collector couldn't understand what kind of a woman he is confronting. And he thought, well, how long? How long can this opposition continue? When Mary returns from pasturing cattle, returns from Tori, or goes the 3 miles to Murai station to go to Tori, or goes marketing to Dhuma, collector keeps his distance and follows her. The girls say, Mary, that broker loves you. This is again a very common kind of a word that we often use, where love is often misused, in fact, to suggest that it is a kind of an attraction. And we here very clearly know that this is just mere physical lust, no concern for anything else. Because he can't catch me, that is Mary's response. If he does, his love will vanish. The white man also loved my mother. So once again, another important statement that comes from Mary. If he does what? Does catch me. Because he is not able to get me, well, he is trying to chase. And once, if I allow him to do anything, well, all that love, all that attraction will vanish. And Mary can never forget what that Australian did to his mother. Just the mother was impregnated and Mary was born and the Australian left, never thinking what might happen to the woman or the child. And the girl said, he will marry you. And Mary also knows very well that he has a wife. So what? Mark that. So what? I mean, this is something acceptable. Even if you have a wife, you can get another wife. So what? Let it go. Don't talk. I'm not interested to talk to you about this. And the felling goes on. Slowly the weather warms. There are miles and miles of poppy fields around here. New buds appear. Then the gong sounds one day in the press house. It is revealed that the ritual of the hunt that the tribes celebrate at the spring festival is for the women to perform this year. This is the third very important change in the story. Another twist. Now, here we are going to understand and know that in the tribal community, they celebrate different festivals, not just with their all joyfulness and cheerfulness, they also do it with equal devotion. After 12 years, they get a turn. Turn of what? For 12 continuous years, men run the hunt. So a particular day is fixed when there would be hunting, literal hunting. Like in Purulia, even in Ayodhya, this used to be organized, I think just a few years back. Now it has stopped because of some environmental issues, might be. So, 12 years continuously, it would be the turn of men because they are the dominating gender. After 12 years comes the turn for the women. Now, the whole situation would be reversed. Just see. Like the men, they too go out with bow and arrow. They run in forest and hill. They kill hedgehogs, rabbits, birds, whatever they can get. Then they picnic together, drink liquor, sing, and return home at evening. They do exactly what the men do. Once in 12 years, this is a repetition by Mahasweta Devi, that yes, it might be after 12 years, but at least in the tribals, at least they have some windows for their women too, where the cycle turns and now the women take the lead. They come to the fore. They become the hunters. They are not just hunted. They become the hunters. They come to the center and the men go to the periphery. Then they light the fire of the spring festival and start talking. Budni tells them stories because she has a very rich repertoire, right? She has a lovely kind of a memory and she has vast experience. So she shares with them all the stories. That time we killed a leopard. I was young then. The old women listen. The aging women cook. The young women sing. So you understand, it's a lovely kind of a cultural event for them. Everybody join. Everybody joins and everybody takes part. And depending on your age, well, certain different roles are played by them and quite happily. They don't know why they hunt. The men know. They have been playing the hunt for 1,000,000,000 moons on this day. Now, Mark, it's a kind of a lovely ritual. It's a lovely tradition that these tribals have set. And Mahasweta Devi is perhaps bringing to us this kind of a ritual, this kind of a ceremony in the life of the tribals, and suggesting that we might think ourselves to be superior, much better in all different areas of life. But perhaps the tribals offer us an opportunity where the gender disequality, right, inequality can be settled and can be set right. Once there were animals in the forest, life was wild. The hunt game had meaning. Now the forest is almost empty, right? Because of the poaching, because of different kind of deforestation and other issues. Life wasted and drained. The hunt game is meaningless. And that is the reason perhaps that, well, the men also allow the women to go ahead. Only the day's joy is real. Okay, fine. It's a kind of a festivity. Let the women also have their turn. And so that much opportunity is given to them. Mary was getting tired of the collector's tireless, single-minded pursuit. Mark that. And it is interesting how Mahasweta Devi brings in once again this particular effort on the part of the collector to somehow seduce Mary. So on one hand, we are learning about a hunt, right? The real literal hunt that now the women folk would do. And side by side, we are reminded that there is another hunt going on, at least on the mental plane. The collector is continuously, single-mindedly, with all his focus, following Mary. Jalim might get to know. He would be wild if she let him know. He might go to kill collector if he got the chance. Collector has a lot of money, a lot of men, a city bastard. You know, all this is actually going on in the mind of Mary. So Mary is just being very aware. She can understand and analyze the whole thing. And she is just trying to find out a proper solution. He can destroy Jalim by setting up a larceny case against him. So try and understand, Mary also knows very well the people and their mentality. So if Jalim comes to know about it, and therefore Mary is not letting Jalim know that, well, there is a collector who has come to the village and he is trying to do something or the other, right? And why is she not saying it to Jalim? The reason is that she's afraid collector might use his money, collector might use his men, and might just bring about a false case and just imprison Jalim. That Mary cannot really allow. Collector too was losing patience. The felling would soon be over. They would have to pull up stakes and then vote. Mark. So it would be a great defeat if a collector failed to hunt Mary. Collector caught Mary's hand one day. He became desperate. The timing was good. No hunt for the men this year. The men will drink and make up new songs for the spring festival, dress up as clowns and go out to sing for money. Collector has promised them liquor for the festival. So now, gradually, the momentum is being built. And collector once catches hold of that desired target. Returning from the felling, there is singing every day in a droning monotone. They have their own way of singing. Perhaps you all have heard how the tribals sing and dance, right? It has its own rhythm. It might have a kind of repetition, but it has its own rhythm. And most importantly, they're all very, very happy. Mary was listening. On the way back from market, dusk fell as she listened. She started home. Collector knew she would come. Collector caught her hand. He said, I won't let you go today. At first, Mary was scared. Why scared? Scared because of the kind of mood that the collector was in. See, when you lose your mind, you don't know exactly what you are doing. And after all, Mary knows very well that she is a woman. And that perhaps nobody is near around to might save her. Struggling, she lost her machete. With great effort, after a good deal of struggling, Mary was able to spring out of his grasp. So it was virtually a kind of wrestling that was going on between a woman and the potential molester. Both of them stood up. Collector did not have his dark glasses on. Long sideburns, long hair, polyester trousers, pointed shoes. Mark that? That was, in fact, the concept of a smart hero in those days. A dark red shirt on his back. Against the background of the spring songs, Mary thought he was an animal. Animal. Mark that. Very suggestive image, a very poignant metaphor. Animal. And now start linking it up with this particular year when the women folk would be out to hunt. The syllables beat on her mind. Suddenly, an idea must have struck, and she smiled. Mary, stop right there. Don't move up. What are you looking at? You. And collector was not really prepared for this kind of response. He started mumbling and absolutely undecided. You want me a lot? No? Asked Mary. A lot. Good. What's good? To see what you really want. Really want? I have never seen a woman like you. You are worth 1,000,000. How will that marketeer know your worth? That Muslim? Mark that once again. Will you? Sure, I'll give you clothes, jewels. Really? Everything. Mary took a deep breath. See, it's actually a lovely wrestling match going on. Earlier, it was a physical wrestling in which Mary lost her meshut. Somehow, she could disentangle herself and come out of the physical grasp of this man. Now it's a mental wrestling that has started. And very wisely, very cleverly, Mary is leading this animal into a kind of a trap. Mary took a deep breath, then said, "Not today. Today I'm unclean." Might be she was referring to some physical problem. Not today. Yes, I understand what you want from me, but perhaps this is not the right day. That was absolutely a kind of a windfall. Mary is ready? When, Mary? When? Mary's eye and face softened. Mark. So Mary is also a great actress. She said, on the day of the feast, symbolical, stay near that rock. The women will go far to play the harp. I'll come to you. You know which rock? You look for me from behind that stone. All right. Then that's our pact. That's an agreement. Okay? Yes, Mary. But don't tell anyone. A man can do no wrong, but a woman is soiled. As it is, I am illegitimate, and then I was going to marry a Muslim. Mark that. Mary very intelligently is just playing on the logic that any ordinary man would have given and believed. And very subtly, Mary is successful in convincing the collector that she is serious. Tell me you won't. Why anymore? Have a bit of patience. Don't follow me around like that. I took so much trouble over you, said the collector. I just can't wait anymore. I have lost all my patience. I'll make up for everything on the day of the spring festival. Mary patted his cheek. Mark, so she is doing everything very intelligently. She is touching him. She's speaking softly. She's saying that she's going to offer herself to him to satisfy his lust, right? And she is not showing her measure to him, right? She said, you are nice. Now, Mark, she has started using good words also. Dear, I didn't see at first. What exactly is Mahasweta Devi doing? She is showing us that when you fight a war, when you fight a battle, sometimes you have to take 2 steps back. Retreat. If the situation demands that you have to take 2 steps back, you should. And then come with all renewed energy to vanquish your enemy. And this is exactly what Mary is doing successfully. You are nice, dear. I didn't say any at first. So it was my mistake. I couldn't find how nice you are. She took off sinuously. She knew collector wouldn't clasp her from behind a second time, because he has very successfully convinced the collector that now she is going to allow the collector have what the collector really wants. So that is the part that I wanted to share with you today and analyze that much part. I think going beyond that is not really necessary. It's enough that we have covered. Now, any question from your end? If you have any question to ask you are most welcome. Any question, anybody? Could you understand how the story is moving towards a befitting climax? Any question from anybody before I end?
Sir?
Yes?
Sir, that line, a man can do no wrong, but a woman is soiled. So what is the meaning of that line?
See, this is again that mental construct that if a man, though he is a married man, and he has some physical relation with another woman, The man's dignity is not really questioned. I mean, it is not really compromised. Nobody raises any finger against him and says, well, you have lost your character. But if it is a woman, whether she is married or not, doesn't matter. If a woman has a relation with a physical relation with any man, well, it is her character which is put on a question mark. That is soiled. Soil means what? Soil means it has lost its own dignity, right? That is the meaning that, well, you should not really tell anybody, your men or anybody, that I have agreed to come on the day of feast to a particular place and I would gratify you, your lust, right? Could you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any other question? Okay, then enough for today. I will take up again the third part of the story. And once I finish analyzing the text, I'll come back to discussion of different issues. Okay. So thank you then. Thank you, everyone.